Good day, everyone. This is once again Sir Jabin Liguma. So for today's pre-recording, I will be discussing some important matters related to the midterm lesson coverage. As I have mentioned in our virtual orientation, I'll be posting in our Google Classroom the different lessons pertinent to both midterm and final coverage. And for the time being, I have already posted lesson coverage for the midterm. Okay, so I am now projecting on the screen the instruction that we are going to follow in order for you to appreciate and eventually learn from these midterm lesson coverage. So all in all, you are going to read and understand this lesson coverage for midterm from September 5 to November 13, because this is the time frame for our midterm. Moreover, our lessons for midterm will tackle on the different constructs of the self. Meaning to say, we'll be looking at the different perspectives. When you say perspectives, it means worldview, or in our Cebuano language, it's called pangunahuna. Nagigamit aron mahibaluan kung kinsa si ako. Who is this? What is this so-called self? We have philosophical perspective, we have sociological perspective, we have anthropological perspective, and lastly, psychological perspective. And before we will end the midterm coverage, we will also tackle the Eastern thinking, Eastern perspective. This is in contrast to the so-called Western perspective, which I have mentioned a while ago. The philosophical down to psychological perspectives are more of a Western perspective. So before we will end this midterm coverage, we will also look into the so-called Eastern thinking. This is very vital for us. Labi na kita na nasa Pilipinas, kay we are part of the Eastern world. Then I will discuss later the lessons, later of this semester, the lessons for final. But for the meantime, we'll focus on the midterm lessons. So here are the different handouts which you will be perusing, you will be viewing and reading in your most convenient time, because this is the essence of asynchronous sessions. You're going to learn in your self-pace, in your own self-pace, and it should be done in the time when you are free and have nothing to do. Okay, so this midterm coverage will have 4 lessons, which again embedded these lessons that I have just presented a while ago, from philosophical down to the Eastern perspective. So for today's video, we will be looking at the first perspective, the philosophical perspective, so that after this lesson, you'll have something to think about, something to work on. Then we will have another separate recorded presentation for the remaining lessons. Okay, let's get started. Let me just okay, I hope the presentation that I have prepared is clearly visible in your own screens, in your respective screens. So let's get started. So the first perspective that we need to understand about understanding the self is the so-called philosophical perspective. But first and foremost, before we will discuss this philosophical perspective, let's take a look at first. Let's try to understand self in normal sense. When we say self, it refers to you. Okay, selves, it refers to us. And the only being, the only thing that existed in this world that can claim that which has a self, or that which have selves, are human beings. Is you as a human being. Animals, plants, non-living things do not acquire the so-called self. But when we dig deeper on asking, what is myself? Who am I? Then we can attribute a lot of identifications about this self, about who am I, about who you are. So for example, you will say, I am, then you will state your complete name, the name provided in your live birth or birth certificate. Like for example, in my case, I am Jabin Diguma. I am a boy. I am a man. I am a teacher. I am living. I am residing at Barangay Inuburan, City of Naga, Cebu. So these are the so-called identifications. But the question is, who truly is this self? Because sometimes we can attribute to the self to other, which we call incidental to you, such as stating, I am sad, I am happy. Now you ask yourself, are you sad? Are you Jabin? Are you a man? Then my answer to those questions may differ. Like for example, when I say, are you sad? I am sad at this moment, but after this moment, I am no longer sad. So there is change of identification. Well, on the other hand, when I say I am Jabin, that would be true always. Not unless I will decide to change that name, because that is possible as far as our legal laws are concerned. Pwede nimong ilisdan imong ngalan. But the question there is, which identification of the self can be objective so much that it cannot be altered until you give up your last breath on earth? Meaning to say, unsa man ang naa sa unsa man ang naa ug unsa man nga ikaw nga constant all throughout your lifetime. No? So therefore, it is very important to understand the self. It is very important to identify who you are, insofar as we have a very finite life. Our life will end. Our life is temporary. Therefore, the self that needs to be identified is also very temporary. Thus, we do not have the luxury of time to just attribute on the self, to the self, with something that are not helpful for you. So therefore, the quest, this course, as I've mentioned before, will therefore help you to grow personally, to help you understand who you are and to find out the identification that is helpful for you. Because if we will remain on identification, identifying ourselves on something that are not essential, on things that are not helpful, then it will destroy the self. It will make the self harmful and harming to oneself. Harmful to both perspectives or areas. Like it could harm other people because you may hurt other people. You may converse and communicate to them unhealthily. Worse to yourself. You will have how would I say it? Rather than helping yourself to grow, you are slowly killing yourself. So much that you will be excluding yourself, separate ang imong kaugalingon sa tao, sa imong pamilya, or you will be living exclusively alone. And that is again detrimental. That is very unfortunate to a person who has the capability to grow and to mold oneself. So let's now start with how can I view myself philosophically so that I will have a healthy image of myself. Okay, so that's the very task, therefore, of this subject, to be able to find out the healthy and helping views to make yourself better, if not the best version of yourself. Let's start with the philosophical perspective. When we say philosophy, it comes from two Greek words, philosophia, means lover of wisdom. Now let's just go straight to the point. When we say philosophia, it's actually an invitation. Philosophy, or becoming a philosopher, is an invitation for each and every one of us to be able to strive to make ourselves better. Okay, because you will become a lover of wisdom. More than love of wisdom, if we will be applying this, if we will try to do this, we then become the lover of wisdom. When we say lover, it means you are always seeking to do something for others. Because to love does not exist alone. No? To love, you need to have a subject for that action loving. Let's subject the term love, no, as far as grammar is concerned. To love is a verb, right? And to love as a verb is a transitive verb. It is a transitive verb, meaning say it is an action that is always directed towards an object. There are actions that can stand alone without being directed to an object. Like, for example, eat, to eat is both transitive and intransitive. Huh? But you can say, I eat, then you put period. That can suffice because it can stand alone because it is intransitive. At the same time, you can also say, I eat banana, or I eat a cup of rice. In that sense, eating becomes a transitive verb because the term eat, the verb eat, is directed to an object called cup of rice or banana, meaning it's directed towards an object. Now, when it comes to the word love is only a transitive verb. No, it is not defined as a verb that can be both transitive or intransitive. It is intransitive alone. So therefore, the action love is always directed towards an object. And that could have a sense of stress. The meaning of love is constant because love is always directed to an object. You feel in love, you fall in love, you love somebody, you love something. You cannot just say, I love, period. It's a wrong grammar. Whether it always have to, it always has to have an object. I love you. I love to eat. I love myself. At least there is a self that you love. Because you are also an object to be loved by that self. But there are controversial issues for us loving the self is concerned. But let's have a separate session for that. For the meantime, let's go back. Therefore, being a philosopher, when we try to retrieve this term philosophy from its original Greek word, which is philosophy, it means lover of wisdom, to love wisdom. So we are therefore invited to seek for wisdom, to always go after, to always inspire to achieve wisdom. But what is wisdom? What is wisdom? How does it differ, and how is it related to the term knowledge? When we say knowledge, it is simply what you know about things. Like, for example, this cup of coffee. I mean, this cup. This cup, the things I know about this cup is at the level of knowledge. When we say this cup is solid, this cup is used for me to put water, both hard, cold, or lukewarm. But it is therefore something I can put a liquid in it. So that's what we call general knowledge. That's what we know about the thing. But when it comes to wisdom, let's take note of this. Wisdom is the proper application of the knowledge of things. It is that wisdom is the proper, is the correct application of what we know about things. So how does it differ? How wisdom differs to knowledge? Insofar as their definition is concerned, knowledge is simply what you know about things. Wisdom is the proper, correct application, utilization of the knowledge of the thing. But how do they relate to each other? They are very connected insofar as wisdom has the tendency to be dependent on knowledge in a manner that the quest to find out a proper knowledge of things is therefore very vital, because if we will have the wrong knowledge of things, then wisdom will be affected, because wisdom is the application of the knowledge you have known. Like, for example, my application of wisdom is dependent on my knowledge of this stuff. So that because I know that this stuff is something I use for drinking, then when I will use this in drinking, then I am exhibiting wisdom, because I am applying I am acting correctly, what I have to do, what I have supposed to do about the stuff. And that would give us again the understanding that wisdom, therefore, is dependent on the knowledge of a person. So will uh, knowledge, therefore, is also very important. No? The quest to acquire knowledge, the quest to ask questions are very important. The quest to ask questions is very important because at the end, we have to apply. In such a manner, knowing the self is very important because what you will know about the self is the very ingredient by which you apply the self. You try to practice what the self can do. You try to manifest what the self could be for you insofar as your knowledge of the self is concerned. So in this manner, philosophical perspective will therefore help us to view self correctly. Because later on, you will be applying what you will be learning. Take note of that. You will be applying what you are learning. Now, what are the positive and good and correct knowledge of the self as far as the philosophers? Let's take a look at first Socrates. Socrates' work was never published. Just because Socrates was very dependent on dialogue. He conversed, he teach via conversation. But we know about Socrates thanks to his student Plato, who wrote about his teacher Socrates. But what can we know about what are the essential things that we have to know about Socrates? First and foremost, Socrates is considered to be the first martyr of education, knowledge, and philosophy. He was accused of a crime called poisoning the minds of the youth in the ancient Greek time, in the ancient Greece time. It's because he's trying to rectify, he's trying to correct the proper understanding of the self. He's trying to trigger the people of his time to think correct. And one of his important philosophical paradigm is the so-called notion of knowing oneself. That is for him the very goal to be able to obtain real, genuine happiness. According to these notes, such goal motivates us to act towards or to avoid things that could have negative repercussions in our lives. I mean to say, the first vital stage to be able to understand the self is to know the self. Knowing the self would imply being able to know both positive and negative aspects of yourself. To be able to understand the different identifications that you have attributed to the self. It's trying to evaluate whether these identifications are helping you, are making you a better individual, or trying to it is trying to cause you harm or cause you trouble. Now, the very reason why people becomes destructive to oneself and to others because of the intention or unintention of disregarding yourself. Magpakabuta-bungol kung kinsa sila. Silang kalimtan kung kinsa sila. Worst, I would say, nagpakatotoo lang ako sa aking sarili, but the reality is, one is trying to close one's eyes on his or her true essence as a human person. So in this manner, Socrates posited the possession of knowledge as a virtue. He's trying to tell us that no, you are a person, you are capable of thinking, you are capable of knowing. So make good use of that capability of knowing. Do not deprive yourself. Do not succumb yourself. Ayaw pagpakabilin sa pagka-ignorant, worse, sa pagka-ignorant, pagka-arrogant. Because these two terms, ignorance and arrogance, are closely linked to each other. They are both trying to do away with knowledge. Ignorance is inability to be knowledgeable because one has no experience whatsoever. But worse is being arrogant because one has the knowledge but insists not to know it. So that's one thing that Socrates would like us to understand about ourselves. Capable ka na mo na makaila kung kinsa ka. Capable ka na mutanaw, maghibaw sa imong mga abilities, sa imong interests, kapag pangutana sa imong kaugalingon. Do not deny yourself with that occasion, with that opportunity to question oneself. You can only do that when you give yourself moments of silence, moment to converse with yourself. Dili man na siya buhat sa kabuang no, ng istorya sa kaugalingon. No? Rather, buhat na sa katao kung gusto mong improve sa kaugalingon. Ibang ka kinahanglan maging istorya mo sa imong kaugalingon. Kubangan sa amin. Just give yourself a moment, pause for a while, think and evaluate your life, understand then both sides of yourself, the negative things that are harming you, and try to change them, because that is where wisdom can enter. Having known that this identification is not helping you, why are you still insisting on practicing and identifying yourself with God? Strict ako. I am a terror teacher. Example, in the course of your life, course of being a teacher, you found out that it's not helping people, it's not giving them the real essence of learning, because they are compelled to learn because they are just simply afraid of it. There's no complete freedom of doing something, because students work out because simply they fear. And so that's where you will try to evaluate yourself. Whether continue that or not to continue that. So at the end, there is the so-called Socratic conversation, Socratic method, to be done, no? When you try to evaluate yourself with the help of other people, try to understand who you are, so that by continuously asking and evaluating who we are as a person, we'll also be able to understand our strengths and weaknesses, things that we like and dislike, how we want people to treat us, how we want ourselves to be. So that by knowing these things, we can act in accordance to what we know, who we are, live our lives following our knowledge of ourselves. So that's Socrates. Since this video is too long already, I will have to separate recorded presentation for the remaining philosophical perspective